Welcome to War Thunder with Subdude. How y'all doing tonight? Well, it's the eve before 1.77, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even the mouse. Yeah, I know, that was pretty corny. But, hey, it's my show, and I'm going to stick to it. What's everyone looking forward to? I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the Mystere 2C. Now, this is supposedly a pre-production version, which probably had about 100 kilograms less thrust than the main production version, but still ought to be a fairly decent top-tier jet fighter with a ground attack component. Now, I know that they haven't done, well, at least on the dev server, they hadn't done anything about the drag coefficient for the rocket pods. And the funny thing is, there's three different types of rocket pods that the company that develops them made. One was a rocket pod that when you fired the rockets, it ripple fired all 19 rockets and then dropped away. And it was, fire and, drop it type of weapon. The next one was a 19 rocket pod that was a reusable. Didn't mean that it couldn't be dropped. It just means that it was a reusable. If you brought it back, it could be reloaded. But it could be dropped. And if you got a fighter on your tail, you want to drop it. Because the amount of drag that Gaijin is currently showing for the rocket pods is ridiculous. Let's just take a look at the Vautour if we add rocket pods, which is the most extreme example. Go to modifications, hop down, and we're just going to be taking the rocket pods. And this is what happens to our speed. We lose 338 kilometers an hour. 338 kilometers an hour. That's ridiculous. Because let's take a look at those rocket pods. I realize that that's the part that everyone's sitting here going, but. You notice how they're nice and faired? Now that's a frangible fairing, which means as you are flying through the air, it is allowing the rocket pod to be more aerodynamic. Now, after you fire the rockets, it becomes a big drag because there's a flat face on it. So that's the point in time when you want to drop those rocket pods, especially if you've got a fighter closing in on you. And the funny thing is, these are the exact same rocket pods used on the Aragon, and soon to be Mystere 2C. They are also used on the G91 pre-production series and the G91 R1. And I do believe that if we get a new British jet anytime in the near future, which probably ought to be a Hunter Mark 6, it could carry the rocket pods. And guess what? The US also used them. So if we get something like the A4 Skyhawk, it's going to get the rocket pods. But again, that's two of the three types of rocket pods. And there was a third rocket pod that was a 250-gallon fuel tank with rockets. So that's probably something you would take on a deep strike mission, to be able to go in further and drop your ordnance on target and then ditch the tanks so that you can fly home at max speed, because hey, you're going to have fighters crawling up your butt. But Gaijin, for some reason, has got an enormous amount of drag, and you can't get rid of the rocket pods once you've used them. You can't get rid of them before you use them. And the drag is just off the charts. That makes them pretty useless as far as in ground attack. And that includes, when you're playing tanks. Because you're just slow bait for somebody to come and shoot at. And when you're flying something like the Batur, you want to be going as fast as you possibly can when you're going in on places that might have anti-aircraft like, the ZSU 23-4 or the, what is that? The Flak Panzer. I mean, you just want to get in, get out before they start shooting at you. Not that you're going to be able to. But there's that. A lot of people are looking forward to the LA 200. It's interesting design. It almost looks like it's a short takeoff and landing type of affair. However, she's a big girl. She's a very big girl. She got a lot of wing, but she's still a very big girl. And when you get up to speed, let's just say you want to do a elevator turn, you might as well use half the map, because she's going to take a lot of room to go around in a turn. And if you do an elevator Immelmann, it's going to take a lot of altitude. You're going to put that plane, well, from sea level. I did an Immelmann in it at max speed, and I ended up at something like 5,600 feet, which is ridiculously high. So maneuverability with the LA 200 is going to be non-existent. And 37 millimeter cannons is going to be a bit brutal. 50 rounds per gun. Enjoy that. I realize you only got to hit once, but you only got 50 rounds per gun. So be careful with your shooting. I'm just not going to be a big fan of the LA-200, mainly because I'm not a big fan of a lot of Russian planes. They look like kludges to me, but that's me. Some people may think they're absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. You need to go see somebody about that. Now, what would everyone like to see in the future? There's 2 user-made models out there that I definitely would love to see added to the British line. One is the Supermarine Swift. I think that's an absolutely beautiful plane. And it would be a good before the Hunter. And somebody would go, why would you put it before the Hunter? And I'd say because the Supermarine Swift is a 2-gun Hunter. It's got only two 30 millimeter Aidens. And I'd also like to see the Scimitar. Now, why would you want to see the Scimitar? It just looks good. I like it. I think one of those is built by Snozzletop and the other is built by Nova something. Pardon me, I don't remember what he is right off the top of my mind. Hold on a second. Let me go look. Nova 29R. That's who it is. And I believe Nova built the Swift. Beautiful plane. Love it. He did a magnificent job on that, and I would definitely like to see that one in the game. Now, those of you that are from Britain will probably have some objections. I don't care. Pretty plane is a pretty plane. I'd also like to see some other planes added. The F-84F. We don't need the F-84F. We've got the F-84G. Well, the F is a swept wing version rather than a straight wing version. The actual G version came out after the F because they couldn't put the Fs into production fast enough. So they created the G version. Figure that one out. Not really looking for another Thunderjet, but there you have it. Mainly because Germany, Italy, and the United States all used them. Well, what about Russia? Russia. Let's go with it. MiG-17F. I know, afterburner. Oh my God, it's got an afterburner. Big deal. Get over it. They're gonna be coming. If they get the map engines big enough, then we're gonna get jets that have afterburners, because it's just going to be a matter of figuring out how to change the fuel consumption. Now, if you think about it, we already can adjust our fuel consumption. You take a plane down to 50% power and your fuel consumption drops. So it's going to be a matter of when you hit WEP, if you will, when you hit WEP, you're going to boost your fuel consumption by about a third. So what do I want to see for the Americans? Actually, what I'd really like to see for the Americans is the F-3H Demon. Why the Demon? Well, because. Don't I want to see the F-100? Nope, not yet. Not until the map size can be adjusted upwards. Do I really want to see any of the supersonics? Nope. Not until we get bigger maps. That is something that's going to be required. If we don't get bigger maps, supersonics are probably never going to come into the game. Now, here's an oddball solution or choice here. Helicopters. I think if we get helicopters in the game, they should all be added in the ground forces trees. Now, would I like to see helicopters in air realistic? No. And the reason is they would have no place. You got, oh, let's say a whole bunch of, what are those, hinds flying along, and all of a sudden they get jumped by a bunch of fighters. Or you've got a bunch of Hueys out there tooling along, and they get jumped by a bunch of fighters. It's not going to be pretty and air realistic. But if you've got helicopters in ground forces and they can make sure that they aren't overpowered, keep the weapons load down to a reasonable level, is what I'm trying to say. Helicopters should be in the ground forces tech tree. That way you know that they'll be added into ground forces battle. And only in ground forces battle instead of air realistic and air simulator. Although a simulator mode for the helicopters or air realistic mode for the helicopters would be kind of fun. Helicopters hunting helicopters. That would be kind of cool. But that's about it. As for the tanks, you people that are going goo goo gaga over the tanks, have at it. Uh, until they can prove to me that the dumbing down of the resolution to handle old video cards has gone away, where nobody gets the automatic cheat mode. Ground forces is basically not worth it to me. Those of you that play it, have a ball. I'll stick with air realistic, air simulator if I ever figure out how to fly a plane. And this subdude signing out. Y'all have a pleasant today, a better tomorrow, and an awesome new time with 1.77. Signing out. Bye-bye, folks.